Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be discussing a cryptocurrency market bottom prediction and going over where and when I believe the Bitcoin bottom will be. So if you are new to the channel and you want to show some support, please leave a like and subscribe. So I have a lot of things on my chart. First I want to talk about this yellow line here. This is the 200-week simple moving average. And basically it takes the closing price of the last 200 weeks, averages it together, and plots it in yellow. The reason I'm showing this is because if we scroll all the way back, we can see how time and time again this has predicted and been correspondent to the bear market bottoms. So in January and August of 2015, we had basically the bottom right around this 200-week simple moving average. And if we go all the way to 2018, we can see how in December we had a bottom around the 200-week simple moving average. And then we came back up and we retested it in January and we held it as support. And you can see how in the March 2020 capitulation, we did have a candle close at the 200-week simple moving average and a wick all the way down to this blue line. And this blue line is the 300-week simple moving average. So currently we are below this moving average, and I think it's very important to notice how price action responds to this. If we have a candle close below this, then there is basically only a few times in history where you can see candle bodies close below this moving average. And I think it's really interesting to note how most of the times whenever we did close below it, it was a very brief time period and we had basically only one candle close below it. So we can see how in March of 2020, the closing price was around $5,300 and the 200 week was around $5,500. And then the next week we got back above it and we held it as support. But if we go all the way down to 2015, we can see how, there were a few candles below this, but they were very, very close to it. And ultimately, we didn't exactly lose it, right? The lowest we went below it from the candle close was around 4 or 5%. So it wasn't too big of a deal. But I would argue that if we start to move back down here and we start consolidating around the $20,000 level, then this will be the largest candle close below it, around 10% below it. So I think that's very significant to note, and really it calls into question that the possibility we might see a test of this 300-week simple moving average at 16,500. So if we were to go back to this level, I think from a candle close perspective, that would probably correspond to the bottom. And what I mean by this is that we could see a wick far below it, but a candle close that is holding it as support. So similar to the 2020 event in March, where we had a wick that was approximately 26% down, we could see something like that, but most likely I think the close of the candle is going to hold this 300-week simple moving average in the event that we do test it. And again, it is at $16,500 and it will continuously move up, because if we were to go back 300 weeks, then we can see how 300 weeks ago the closing price was around $570. So obviously it will continue to move up as we are closing in the $20,000 region, and as time goes on this is going to rise, and whenever we test it, it will correspond to a higher level. So if I draw this out here, let's say we were to test it hypothetically in the beginning of 2023, and that would be around $19,000 at the pace that it is moving up. So that just goes to show you that it does depend on when we do test it, but I think the sooner we test it, the lower it will ultimately be. And when I'm talking about this wick here that could go below it, I'm kind of envisioning a wick that might test this $14,000 level. So that is probably the worst case scenario in my opinion for where the Bitcoin bear market bottom will be. And I believe that if we were to go back down to this level here at $14,000, that would be very, very short-lived, and it would be on just a wick. We would have a pretty long shadow similar to this candle here in March of 2020, where we start closing back above it the following few weeks. So to give you some perspective on most likely what I'm starting to think, I'm going to just extend this 300-week simple moving average out a little bit, because I do believe that the bottom will correspond to the end of this year, and I'll talk about that later in just a second. So I'm going to extend both of these and kind of visualize what I believe will ultimately happen for Bitcoin. So I'm just going to change the color so it makes a little more sense. And now I'm going to go over kind of my thoughts on where we might head. So, we could see some sort of bounce here. I don't really think it matters too much what we do because I do believe the bottom will be later on in this year. So the process we get there will not really matter too much. But I think we could probably see some sort of bounce, maybe some consolidation, and then start trending back, retesting this $20,000 level and heading below it. So if we do something like this, then I think the bottom will most likely come on some sort of capitulation event like this, where we see it kind of rolling over and then make a very fast wick here and then bounce back out of this and start trending back up. So this is kind of what I'm expecting as far as a bottom goes. Again, the time frame is to be at the end of 2022. And the kind of the process we do to get there does not matter. We could come back below this and maybe consolidate below this a little bit more and then come out of it. It really doesn't matter. And I think the price action in the next few weeks will most likely not be a bottom. I don't think we are going to bottom this early on, and I'm going to talk about why now. So if we go all the way back to the 2015 or 2013 bear market, 2013, 2014 into 2015, we can see how this bear market lasted approximately 59 weeks, right? 59 bars, each bar being 1 week. And then if we take a measure move of this one, we can see how the bottom came 52 weeks after. So we have 59 weeks, 52 weeks. I think anywhere between say 50 and 60 weeks would make more sense to me. So if we just go out 50 weeks, we could see that, that would be October of 2022. If we go out 60 weeks, that would be January, the first week of 2023. So somewhere in the time frame of Q4 of this year makes a lot of sense for some sort of bottom. And if we take a drawdown percentage, we can see how this one was 86% down, this one was 84% down. And if we were to say maybe take an 80% drawdown, that would be around the $13,000 level. But I think that, considering how we didn't have a blow off top similar to these events, you can see how the rate of change of these, the slope of this was rising. So we had, price action getting steeper and steeper and steeper to this blow off top mania phase. We didn't really see that in this peak here. It was kind of rounded off a distribution pattern. So you could make the case that because we weren't as overextended to the upside, we won't be as overextended to the downside in the bear market. So I think anywhere from $14,000 to $16,000 at the end of 2022 makes a lot of sense for some sort of macro bottom into the next cycle. So that's the end of my thoughts on the longer term crypto asset class and where I think the bottom will occur. I hope you guys did enjoy this analysis, and as always, I will see you in the next one.